Okay.
Is there anyone else you want to add very briefly, 30 seconds?
Very briefly on the guidelines, I see that you've got no physical violence there. How about cause no harm?
It's the same.
No harm,
yeah.
You know, I mean, that's
Thank
like
you.
to humans, to nature as well. You
Okay.
know, you're going to have some of this copy done and changed.
Okay, so write that down. So cause no harm. Absolutely, I love that. Okay, yeah, on the guidelines.
I'm off the topic, but
Wait for it.
you're not
Can you wait until the end?
without money. It's the way the money flows.
Yes.
It's not eliminating the money.
So the idea in Auroville is to move away completely from money, and there's a period where you transition, and you still need, as Judy said, you need things from the outside. Now we don't need bricks from the outside world because we can make them. We can make them with just labor and soil. But you
you've
need
got your
to
brick making
initially
machine.
get that metal to make a few of those machines, enough to last us for say 100 years, so we can build. So yes, there's a hybrid system. Auroville, because it's 53 years down the line, you can exist just receiving a maintenance from the community and having all your needs taken care of, like Judy said. Whether you were rich or poor, it doesn't know what you were. We might have people living in a mansion who were paupers, and we might have people who are living in a shack who were billionaires. We don't know in Auroville because there's no ownership. When you have ownership, you do know. Okay, so we need a legal structure. So there's the FOST, an official way, and then there's a lawyer that specializes in NPO. I've met with him, I've had a seminar with him. He is in Pretoria and he specializes in doing not-for-profit law, and I would recommend using him. His quote for doing a trust for everything and the PBO status is 22,000 Rand. That's for his time. He charges around 2,000 an hour. You can work it out in the amount of time, but he would be there as the lawyer. And then we can do it free or virtually free of charge. There's negligible admin charges, but there is a risk involved in doing it free. So I would recommend we fundraise that 22,000 Rand, or we could negotiate with him to less, but this is what he's quoted me. So just so you know, and we don't have to use him. I only chose him because he has a track record of only doing not-for-profit law. We don't just want a general lawyer or a litigating lawyer. We want a lawyer who specializes in not-for-profit, because there are risks, legal risks involved if we get it wrong down the line that could jeopardize the project. So I would work with him, but if you find something better, so this is my recommendation. I'm going to give everyone the slides. If you click overview, it will give you his document and all of his details that he's drafted about not-for-profit law, if you want to go into the details, and how many people we need to be the trustees and so forth. That's going to come now. So
surely the first community gets him to draw it up, and then the rest just copy it and just change the details.
Exactly. Brilliant. Yeah. So we need to raise that money. And that's not a lot to raise if we all chip in, but that needs to be raised to create the trust once we have the vision and the guidelines. So just to take you back, vision will be signed off and agreed upon by whoever's seeding the community. The guidelines will be signed off, and then we've got our vision and guidelines, we're creating something, we're actually birthing an entity. The tradition in India was to choose an auspicious date and full moon, Aksha Tritiya, they had all these things, and then birth it, you register it. So we would register our trust or not-for-profit company. Trust is a little bit inefficient because there's delays in the government, but trusts are much easier once you've got them, but they're slower to do changes. The companies come in a few days. You can have a company. It's about 6 or 7 days. He said you can have the not-for-profit company. It's got much more compliance and reporting, so there's more overhead of the company in terms of reporting. Trusts are easier. Most of the not-for-profits like Ikamba Labantu, the successful ones in South Africa, are trusts, but the trusts were much more easier and efficient. The whole system is delayed now. Things that used to take a week could take a month or a year. This is just the reality, but maybe if we have volunteers, we can go to the High Court. I think it's called the Master of the High Court. We can actually go and build a relationship and try and speed. South Africa's also still got, it's good where you have a relationship with people, and we could build up a relationship and maybe fast track it. But these are the two routes. It's either a trust or a not-for-profit company. There are other routes, but I don't recommend them. And this is all in the document. If you click on overview, you will see that. So this is ready to roll once we have vision and guidelines. I highly recommend we get PBO status. Now, he's not sure because it's in India, they recognize Auroville because Aurobindo was a freedom fighter like a Mandela. Auroville's already got a PBO-like status. It's a statutory body, like a university or like a big organization that's sort of a not-for-profit. These are the guidelines to get PBO in South Africa. You've got to tick one of these boxes or one or many. I thought education and development, conservation, which you've mentioned a few times, environment and animal welfare research. So he's not sure we will qualify for PBO status, but we're going to try to get in. I think we will qualify eventually, if not initially. But I'm just saying PBO opens us up to public funds like lottery money, and you want to get money wherever it is and channel it into the project with no strings attached. So money is out there and may as well come to a good project which is creating these communities in South Africa. So I highly recommend we do get PBO status. He will help us to do that, but he didn't guarantee, understanding what Auroville type projects would be, he didn't guarantee in South Africa we could do it because South Africa is looking for certain things for the public benefit organization. Now community is of public benefit. There's no doubt about it, but it needs to obviously satisfy the government that it's of public benefit. So I'm just mentioning this, and we'll do questions about that at the end. Ownership, all immovable assets are owned by the trust. So there are no investors, there are no shareholders. Everything immovable is owned by the trust. I don't really recommend going another route because I've seen it as so successful in Auroville and other communities like Findhorn. So how do you enter and exit? So the minimum we need is 3 trustees, but I thought we should start with 5 because 3 is a little bit not redundant because if one person falls ill, then you basically can't operate the trust. So at least 5. Some of the more established trusts like Azukedi Kambalabantu, they have like maybe 7 or 9, but I would have at least 5, and those would be initial people who are going to put their name as trustees, and they will basically be the it's not like they have the power or not, but they are the ones who are carrying the vision and the responsibility initially, and those can change, and they can be, you'll need a constitution where you say how trustees can come and go, they can leave. These are pretty standard things. Vaynant would help us, Ricardo would help us do that, basically, to draft that, and we would look again like successful, we look at communities like Auroville and model on them, how we've done it. We have our governing board in Auroville, which is sort of the trustees, and then we have trusts under that. Now, in Auroville, we've got kind of newcomers and then Aurovillians. So here we don't have established, we're not going to have community members. So everyone will be a newcomer and be on a 1-year trial period. And in Auroville, we have an exploratory phase of 2 months. So I would say everyone would have a 2-month phase where they're exploring, where they're volunteering, and then decide with the group if they're going to become a newcomer, which will be like a new member of the community. There needs to be like this tasting and then sort of sitting down for the meal, and then maybe you don't like the meal and you want to walk out, and that's the exploration phase and the newcomer phase. So we will have like a 2-month, I think the Auroville model is good. You've got like 2 months to figure out the place and see if you like it. Of course we won't have a place initially, we will have just a vision and guidelines and a lot of work to be done and groups that need to work. So people might want to sort of sign on for 2 months, and if after 2 months, it's like a job. 2 months you don't like it, you don't enjoy the vision, you feel the group's not your group, feel free to leave. And then you have that 1 year where you're a newcomer, and then you can graduate to a member of the community. So there's kind of these 3 statuses. This is what I'm recommending. And then we would form an entry group for receiving new people because you want to grow your community. So you need these systems. So this is the entry and exit on the right for how we would do it here in South Africa. This touches on what Judy was touching upon. All housing is owned by the community. There is no individual ownership. And that's the trust. And the trust will be having not just one farm, but many farms eventually joined together under one vision and one guidelines. And then I was speaking to a quantity surveyor today. So you basically go and like this building, how many square meters is it? Maybe around 80, 90, 100 or so, I don't know. And then you would go and you would say it's so much per square meter. This building, so if Judy wants to steward this building, it's 100 square meters, the price is 10,000 Rand per square meter. She has to give us R1 million as a donation. And if she wants to leave, we value it. Now it's gone up to 11,000 per square meter at the actual brick and mortar, or it's depreciated. It wasn't maintained and it's worth 9,000. She'll get 900,000 Rand. That's the way we do it in Auroville. It seems to work really well. It's just a fair value of the brick and mortar. You're not buying the land or the location. If you were buying the location in Auroville, you would pay a fortune because it's the best location in the world. I mean, or in India and the world. You're not buying, sorry, I can't use that word. I mean, if I said it the other day accidentally in a meeting at Auroville, I said people buy homes and then people got very upset. You steward, you don't, but buying is a kind of transaction. There is a change. So in Auroville, you don't have to give money to get a home, but in some cases you can if you want to create new infrastructure for the community or to fund infrastructure for the community. And I'll explain how the system works. So with an existing farm, with existing homes, you will steward that on the brick and mortar value, and that is how we will raise the money to buy the farm. We will negotiate with the farmer or the owner or the trust or the individual company that owns it. This is what we're offering based on the brick and mortar value, and they hopefully will like that, and that's how we will get it. Okay, so if you want to exit, which hopefully if the community is successful, people don't want to exit, you basically get your donation returned at the fair value. There's no free market or real estate trade. It is based on what are those bricks, the roof, what are the windows actually worth. That's how you quantify it. You have to quantify it because that's the only way you're going to get money into the system to deal with the money system that you need to get things to have for the community. And then we have a master plan. We have a zoning team, we have a planning team. We call it L'Avenir de Auroville, that's planning the community. Someone has to deal with the planning company, that we're going to have to deal with the municipality. These are just realities, like having the trust. So, and each farm can have 7 units. Now those units can have more than one family in it, like in Goodwill, the model that I'm just putting on the table here, it has 460 square meter. It could have 2 or 3 or possibly 4 families in that sharing collectively. So you can be imaginative with the spaces. The smaller spaces could have more or less, and that will all depend. But you can have 7 units, a farm house, a manager's house, and 5 additional units on a farm. And trying to change that or getting more, or bending the rules like using the labourers' cottages, I don't advise that in South Africa because it's going to just jeopardize whatever you're investing. So rather just stick to the rules, and then a few years down the line, say 5 or 6 years, show the Western Cape government, this is what we've done. We've made a magical kingdom, a beautiful Auroville here. Can you give us a new status, an eco-village status, and give us maybe 10 or 12 or 14, and we'll give these gifts to the country. That's the way I would approach in South Africa. I would work with the agri, I would work with the zoning, and then change the laws to adapt to what we've created. This is what I would do. Decision making, so we need our trust, our not-profit. We need advisors and mentors. I'm happy to be an advisor and mentor for the project if you would like, and I can bring elders from Auroville. So we have like elders and people in Auroville who have know-how of running communities that can be an advisor. We need the residents, which will be all of you, and that's the members, and you'll be in different phases from exploratory to newcomer to a permanent member, and then leaving members, departing members, but all different statuses. And then those members will form groups. The groups, we will have a governance team that makes the major decisions with financial, with management. So you have different governance, that's a governance group, and that will be elected by the members. Everything is democratic, it's majority. Everyone will put their nominees for who wants to be on this committee, and then people will vote, and that's how it is. And it will change every few years, so people can change roles if they want to. And then you have, under the groups, you have activities and projects, like the chocolate factory someone mentioned is an activity under a project, a group, which is our commerce group, and that's how everything fits into this hierarchy. And then, very important, from the beginning we have a conflict resolution group. So in our group here, maybe a few of you, I have experience as a mediator, a few would put your name down as mediators, and then when there is a conflict, we would not fight it out on the field, in the farms. We would come to the conflict resolution group and say, this is our conflict, and they would mediate, arbitrate. We wouldn't rush to lawyers or the police. So we need to bake that in from the beginning, because if marriages can't stick it out after like a year or two, then communities cannot survive. So we need conflict resolution. It's just humans are going to need that. So bake it in from the beginning and make it that it's there. And we've got it in Auroville, and it works beautifully to have conflict resolution.
Martin, I was just wondering, do you have any sort of like notes and things on conflict resolution that we could adopt?
Yeah.
Great.
There's a whole organization. We've got bodies of conflict resolution, and you can read all their conflicts. You've got crazy conflicts about trees, about birds' nests, and conflicts that you would never even dream of.
When conflicts can't be resolved, then what's the plan? Execution.
Execution, well, you just have what we say in Yiddish, a faribel, and those people don't talk to each other. I've seen it in the community where, like, people just, when I was in the kibbutz, I was working for Itzhak and Refraim, both of them, and then when I didn't feel like working, I would tell Itzhak, I'm working for Ephraim, and I'll tell Ephraim I'm working for Yitzchak, and I knew no one would check on me. So the thing is that you're going to have variables, but you want to give tools that they're,
Yeah.
you don't want to have too much, you don't want conflict as a theme of the community.
No,
it's
no.
going to ruin the community.
Yeah.
And I surveyed the communities that tried to succeed. There was Babian's Kloof where Steve Newman was living. They had people fighting over killing goats and silly things. You need to bake
That's
conflict.
not silly.
You need to bake conflict resolution in from the beginning. Very, very important. These are all the groups. I already mentioned that last time in the last talk. But the ones in green are the ones we need from day one. We need finance, entry and exit, fundraising, community growth, legal, governance, constitution and guidelines, and a conflict resolution and oversight group. So initially, once we've done, so step 1, the vision, step 2, the guidelines, step 3, the trust. Step 4, form the groups. So from whoever of you in the room and whoever's out there in the world listening to this who wants to be part of this community that we're going to form, let's call it Goodwill, or Dana might have another one. We're going to form groups. Dana might be an expert in conscious architecture. She would be on the architectural group. Joan might be an expert on consciousness development or conscious nutrition. She would be on that group. Judy would be on animal welfare. She would be on that group, and so forth. It's
Animal welfare, leave the baboons alone.
I'm just giving you examples, abstract examples. And then the next phases, we're not going to go there, but these are the next groups that we're building, and then we're building the next group. So we start with phase 1. Everything is phased. It's very systematic and it's very logical, and we're just duplicating what Auroville did organically, but we're saying, okay, you've made this wonderful cake and it's really delicious, and then you're going, what was the recipe? What did I actually put in the cake? There was cinnamon, there was ginger, so that's why it's a wonderful cake. So these are the ingredients that my 15 years, I think it's going to be 16th year in Auroville now, I've got to see this is what they did right, and this is what I'm distilling and giving to you as a gift. And getting going,
But I'd like to see which one we use.
growing, and then growing. And these are the 51 groups that I've identified that we have in Auroville. So obviously each group's got 2, 3, or 10, or 15 people. So you can imagine how many people we have. If we have in the room now 30, 40 people, and we can't make 51 groups, we'd have to duplicate ourselves. That's why we start with the most essential groups. We do need a fundraising group. So I would say, who wants to be on fundraising? Put your hand up. Okay, I will be on fundraising. And who wants to be on community growth? That means helping bring people aligned with the vision to the community, finding them and bringing them. Who wants to be on finance group? Are you good with finance? And then that's how we would do it. We would have a meeting like this or an online meeting and build these groups. This has to be done, otherwise we can't make it happen. It's a bit like building a company, but for a much clearer purpose of something to give back to the world. I mean, there are companies that do give back, and there are companies that only take. As we can see now, the pandemic has given us this incredible polarization, or we can see what's happening. So initially we have to buy a farm by trust. Now, I fell in love with the Cape Point area many years ago. I lived in Red Hill. I think there's a few from Lalapanzi staying here. And it's not a bad idea to look at that area. I like that area. There's always farms there. There are many people who would say it's too close to Cape Town, but being close to Cape Town is also a huge advantage. That everyone in this room, whether you're packing up and going to Stanford or the Cedarburg requires like a leap of faith. But going to Cape Point a few hours of your week and working remotely for 25 hours and giving to the community is much more realistic. So I'm not saying you have to do it there, but I did do a model, and there are occasionally farms that come up in that belt of Cape Point, and I wouldn't mind doing one there. I think it would be a really good, and possibly Judy might look at Nodok also. This is Stanford, so we're going to buy the farm. We're going to negotiate the price. Rishi's very fair. It's her father and Rishi that would negotiate, and then the trust will buy it, and I'll tell you how we're going to get the money, and the residents will become the community members. Not one person is the owner, trust is the owner. That's a very important point. How we get the money. So it's a stewardship model. So here it is. Look, this is from the quantities of air they sent to me today. These are the average prices per square meter to build and to value buildings. And you obviously value based, it will be a clinical valuation done by quantities of air. So we would actually go to Goodwill and would value it. Like the one house has a swimming pool underneath, so obviously that would push the value up. And the other one is more basic, and so forth. We would actually value it, and then we would list these as housing assets, not to buy, not to invest in, but to steward by members of the community. Now we've got this catch-22 because we're only going to have trial members initially, but we're going to have to select members, and obviously the members who steward are going to be putting money in. Now, there's no risk for them because if they don't like it, I mean, if the project folds, they can get paid out. The project is not going to fold. If they don't like it after a few years, they can unsteward, undonate, and get their money out at fair value. The trust will just return the funds when someone comes in to replace them.
This price value is including the labour, isn't it?
This is just what,
Which
if
would-
we were to value, okay, this room
In our
is,
case would be our volunteers.
this is including everything, and these are the different private residential, from very affordable to, you can see the range, it's like a 10x range. We're somewhere in the middle, and I've kind of put it up in middle to luxury. I've given two models, like in between, because I think it's fair to, I mean, based on what is there, but it could vary. I mean, you can play with these numbers, but this is the model of how you acquire the farms or farm initially. It's called the stewardship model. So if we just take Goodwill, we've got 3 assets there to steward immediately. Now the irony, there's none of them are on the plans, I found out. So part of the zoning is we actually have to get everything on the plans. The farmer there was an Israeli farmer and he just did everything sort of off the plans, but that has to be sorted out because you're not going to be able to get anything else in the plans. So there are 3 assets there. Of course you can apologize and pay the penalties. It's not that much, I think, and they said it's doable to get them on the plans, but it has to be done. There's a large villa there, and if we look at another land, you would do the same evaluation, and then there's a 110 square meter, and there's 167. The large villa could be 3 families because it's got like multiple bathrooms, multiple sort of entrances and exits. So I would see maybe 3 families. The valuation range anything from 5 to 6 million at the brick and mortar value. And then the other one is anything from 1 to 1.4. The other one is 1.8 to 2.1. Now, if you think the farm was actually listed initially for I think 15 or 16 million, and the negotiations are down to around 10 million now. So you get, just by looking at the actual brick and mortar value of what's there, you can actually get very close to realizing the farm. That's why I'm presenting this as a model. It's a realistic model. Just going and asking one wealthy person for 10 million rand, it is possible. 100 hectares.
How do you know who's wealthy?
No, I'm just saying going and getting
Yeah,
10
we've
million
gotta
now,
find one.
of course if someone gets it who wants to give it, in Auroville we've had that, we've had people give us 10 million rand, but that's in the mature phase. In the pioneer phase possibly also, but there was already a long link with Sri Aurobindo, so it was like Madiba came and said I'm going to do an Auroville, and of course we would get millions of rands, but we don't have a Madiba to do it right now, and we don't have that. You know, we could take that approach and find, you know, ask Zuma to do it. I'm joking. Or Ramaphosa, but we could do that, but it's a different approach. But I think keep politics out of it for now. Madiba would have been beautiful, of course, if we had had a Madibaville, because his visions were very much like Auroville. The Ubuntu idea was a human unity idea. Actually, Madibaville should be done in South Africa at some stage. Maybe we should approach the Nelson Mandela Trust. But anyway, the stewardship model allows people who want to go and be part of a community, not own something but donate and help to seed a community, but still have stewardship of an asset. Now, if you've say got 2 million and you want to go live in the country, you're not going to get a farm for 2 million. It's impossible. It's in Stanford, maybe in, you know, very far. So it's not a bad deal. So I think it's a win-win. And there is security here because you're protected that you can exit. The only risk is if the community really fails, but then we sell the whole land and you'll recover. You might have some loss or some gain even, because we might even sell it for a higher price. But this is the stewardship model. This is how Auroville works. When I stewarded my house, I donated into Auroville and I got a housing asset. And then I wanted another house, so I transferred that into another asset. It seems to be working really well 53 years down the line, so I'm putting it on the table. I've looked at other models like shareholding and all that, and I'm not so happy about it for South Africa, but I'm not saying they won't succeed. I'm just saying they're not looking like they'll build a community with the same spirit as Auroville. Okay, so this is it. And then what we do is we take 13% of any donation for housing, whether it's new or existing infrastructure, and then 10% goes to town planning, 1%, so that will be for zoning. So already from the, say, 10 million that would come in just from the brick and mortar value, we've got another 1.2 million to cover our town planning, and we need 500,000 for the town planning, and we need 250,000 for the municipality, and about 250,000 for the town planners for about 1 year of work. So that's quite reasonable for the amount of work they're going to be doing to create this eco-village structure. So that's already there in the Auroville model, where we take 13%, we take 10% for town planning in Auroville, and we take 1% for land, and 1% goes to a central fund sorry, 10% goes to collective housing. So when you put R1 million in as a donation, you add another 100,000 that goes to give people free housing. So say Joan can't afford a house, but she's come to commit to the community. Eventually those 100,000 will build a house for Joan. So it's quite a beautiful system. So the people who can afford to donate in, they are pioneering and seeding. And so to answer your question, Judy, the people with resources now get an incredible home in an incredible place, not just on a farm where they got a farm, but where they've got this whole wonderful magic kingdom growing around them, which you wouldn't buy. It's priceless what you're getting.
Okay.
I mean, the return is, I'm not saying that there's going to be an Auroville overnight, but if the vision is right and we fulfill the vision, we will have an Auroville type project. And you get to also give back, that other wonderful people can come and contribute and make it even more wonderful. So it's catalytic. It's going to snowball. So this is what I'm putting as this land funding model and the stewardship model. At the end, if you don't agree with this, or you have a better model or an alternate model, you can present it. There's not enough time to do it during this slide because I want to cover the other slides, but just make a note about this is the land stewardship model for acquiring farms in South Africa. Now, the one question that maybe some of you have thought of is, what if there's nothing on the land? What if it's, well, generally when there's nothing on the land is much cheaper.
Yeah.
So then you're going to just do a fundraising sprint. So because if this had nothing on the land, it would be half the price, maybe 5 million in Stanford, for example. It's still a lot of money because Stanford is expensive. I might be wrong with that number. It might even be less. I don't know actually what vacant land would be in a farm in Stanford. I don't even know if you can get it because it's a heavy agriculture area historically. And there would be old farmhouses usually. But if there's nothing on the land, say Dana had mentioned some lands like in remote areas of the Cederberg where you've got to just walk for half a day to get there, those lands are generally going to be very affordable. So then you have to do a fundraising sprint because there is no asset that you can use to fundraise to get that. But I'm presenting the stewardship model. I think it's quite a nice model. So we'll talk about the feedback. Make a note to give feedback. Okay, so we've got to deal with town planners. Those who want to forget about that, they can demolish anything you build in 30 days. You just need one person to go and report you, and the whole community loses whatever you put in. The risk reward is not worth it to just ignore the rules. So you have to deal with town planning. Maybe when you have a world where the rules have changed or there's differences, can you keep questions for the end on that? Just make a note to ask if you don't mind, because I want to cover all the slides. And then, so Dana had a question on town planning, and then we'll just do it at the end. So we'll have a planning group, and people like Dana, who's an eco-architect, will be on the planning group, and they'll volunteer their time, because you need expertise and you need people who can think spatially in terms of the essence of the land. Rishi would be great because she's lived on the land for 4 or 5 years, I think. Yeah, it's about, or is it 3 or 4 years? I think 4 or 5, or maybe Plan Active in Overstrand, they already are doing Platbos. Maybe a lot of you know Platbos. They're doing very good conscious projects. So I sort of shortlisted them as the right town planners. They've got good relations with the council. If we're doing something in Stanford, I would work with them. They've quoted 470,000 Rand for doing, it's not a rezoning, sorry. I wrote rezone, but it's actually not rezone. It's just the site plan and getting it to be approved. So what it is whatever we dream up to happen there, which is parking, security, someone wanted security, a visitors center, guest accommodation, biochar production, education, reforestation, music, art, dance, circus, camping, food cooperative, industry, that's like little industry, a reed wastewater system, high production garden, farm, spirulina, office, co-work, library, volunteer accommodation, a creche, waste compost facility, kitchen, sensory, garden, medicinal garden, and buchu, meditation, residential, aquaponics, fire pit, communal kitchen, amphitheatre, seed banks, hot spring, that there was a spring, so we're going to make hot springs there under the stars, meditation, forest trails, because you've got to relax. I mean, also therapy. You're going to be working hard. It's not fun. Telescope, biopool, sports. I might have left anything out. This will be in the collaborative site.
If it was fire pool, we'd get Zuma to invest.
So
Fire-
basically,
fireproof.
this is what we need to get the council to say you can do that, along with your 7 residential, your volunteer accommodation, which is going to be the labourers' cottages, and along with your guest accommodation. So you've got quite a bit of accommodation, maybe 50 to 60 to 70 people can stay on the land. Okay, so we have to do the site plan. You can go the anarchist route, it's not going to be in your interest, basically. And the beauty of what we're talking about today is it's not one farm. It's a farm that is one sub-community, and then we're going to get it going 2-3 years. We're going to buy the next farm. We're going to have funding. We're going to make a mini community per farm, and then we're going to take down the fences between the farms, and we will allow people, like often in the zoning, you've got to be so far from the fence. We're not going to have fences between the farms because the kids and the animals and whoever needs to will move freely between these farms. In Auroville, we do have satellite lands, like we'll have our core land. So the idea here is that we're building up many communities and linking them together. And this is the way that we're going smart with the zoning system, because the zoning system says you can do so much on one farm. But what we need for Auroville is not doable. So we make little communities and we link them together. It's that simple. And then we repeat it. And we add more farms, and as we add more farms, our collective expenditures, so we can have one collective eating hall for 5 or 7 or 10 farms where everyone comes to eat together. And transport or sharing of resources, one biochar production, one biogas production. We don't need one per farm. I'm just touching on Lyndoch because Judy and the group, Joan and Natasha, we went to Lyndoch. It's very important because it's a successful eco-village, and they're missing some of the aspects that Auroville has, the major aspects like doing things collectively so strongly, but they've succeeded as an eco-village, and this is a very important model, and it's also an academic institute. It gets a lot of very skilled people with ecological awareness. So I would create a bridge with Lyndoch. Did I say it right? Lyndoch or Lyndoch? It's a Scottish word. So I would create a bridge with Lyndoch, and there's Professor Mark Swilling. They've done incredible things with going to the dumps and getting bricks and building their roads. They should really win awards. They've done amazing cob houses, Auroville brick houses, recycled brick houses. They've done this beautiful cooling and heating system that they told us about. Yes. They've got incredible wastewater systems. So I would link with them for the community, and I would recommend everyone goes and does the tour there who's interested in doing a community. It's important to sort of network with what's working well, and Auroville's working well, but Lyndoch is here in South Africa. So these are just some of the things they've done.
Where are they, Martin?
Stellenbosch, by Spear. They've got an ownership model where people do own their properties, and okay, it's what they've chosen for that. So
they don't eat together or play together or anything.
No.
They definitely
Or
play
work
together. They definitely play together, and they definitely protect each other together. They definitely do functions and workshops in the hall together. They learn together. Eating together.
So there are more than 7, sorry to interrupt, but there are more than 7 residential
Much
houses
more,
there.
yeah. So
How did
they
get away? There's
they
no
were not a
reason.
farm. They were
I
not a
see.
farm. So they don't have a farm. These are farms around. They had a kind of resort/tourism zoning, and then they got residential, resort, tourism. It's all mixed together. So, and then they've got a nice relationship with the council where they kind of have the committee that passes the plans, and the council just signs it. But we could only do that on the same type of zoning that they were on, which is it was a pub and a abandoned hotel.
So
or
that's not a
something like
farm.
that.
with
No,
most
it's
of
more
it.
like Monkey Valley. It was, what was the zoning? It was resort mixed use.
General
It was
residential.
a kind of resort mixed use. It was a hotel and a pub or a shebeen or something before. This brings me to my last slide, and then we're going to go into the discussion. So what's next? Register your interest to be part of something like this, and it's not only the people here but anyone listening to the video. We're going to give a link to a form where you can fill out some questions and then say what you're interested, what you would like to commit in terms of, which community would be interesting. Would you be interested in Noordhoek? Would you be interested in Stanford? Would you be interested in Cape Point? Would you be interested in the Cedarburg? Wadana's got something on the table possibly there.
Or doing
Gona,
something
there's
where
something
you are.
possibly happening. I don't know if that's going to be this type of model, but which one would you be interested in, or somewhere else? And let's make many of them, let's make lots of them. And then we need to finalize the vision, guidelines, and legal structures. So when I'm back in Auroville with my team, I will write a kind of model for you, a model of the memorandum for the trust. I'll give you, like, handhold you and give everything ready, and you just have to modify and then use it, pay the lawyers or not, do it yourself, and then create the trust, appoint the trustees, the elders, the advisors, and then you're ready. Once you've got your trust, you're halfway there, basically. And then we need to establish the initial donating steward. So if we're going to say, start with Goodwill or a farm in Cape Point or a farm in the Cedarburg, who wants to donate, and what is the brick and mortar value? Do that valuation. Is anyone here a quantity surveyor or knows or related to a quantity surveyor? Because we need a quantity surveyor basically initially. Probably 2, because you need 2 opinions. That's how we do it in Auroville. We get 2 valuations and then we take the median between them, just to keep it very fair, that there's no risk of corruption. We need a fundraising team. And obviously fundraising is beautiful, because the bigger and the better the project gets and the more mature, the easier it will get to fundraise for it. When the project becomes famous like Auroville, it's easier to get funding. And then we need to build the community and then keep aligned with the vision. Check every year that we are going along with the vision, and then we need to grow it. And then we go to work. That's the ending of this section, the 3rd section. From my side, I've given you a kind of a blueprint. I'm not saying it's perfect. I mean, there's no real perfection here, but it should help you to move towards a good blueprint. And then the project and my team in Auroville, we will give what I said we would give, and then basically work with the teams here. And then anyone who had questions or comments, please, you can. Who was first? Judy, and then I think Dana, and what was your name? At the back. Okay, I think Judy first. She popped
Okay.
her hand up.
You know, one thing that makes it hard to fundraise for us who've never ever managed to successfully fundraise anything is what makes person or entity want to give funds. So if we could understand what they want,
Yeah.
then you can at least sort of say, okay, well, we've got what you want.
Well, so write down the vision, create the trust. So it's not Judy fundraising or Joan fundraising.
Yeah.
And then create some fundraising is a kind of sales.
Why do they give? That's what I don't
It's a
understand.
kind of sales or marketing, but you're not selling or marketing the hotel. You're selling or marketing the vision, and then what you're going to do in alignment with the vision. So it's a product. You're saying, I'm going to do research, and I'm going to do research into holistic dog food, whatever, just choose something, or research into making wind turbines, and then a donor either wants to give or not. So there is a science of fundraising and there's an art of fundraising. So create the vision, create the trust, and then it's easier to fundraise, because you're fundraising for something in alignment with your vision that's going to your trust. And there's also tax benefits. Once you've got PBO, there's money that has to come to you. Like lottery money has to be spent. So it's just free money in the sky. You've got to just run under and catch it, basically. Not just lottery money. There's grants. There's tons of money, foundation money out there. The Koyan San project I'm doing now is writing a grant tonight. I'm meant to go and help them finish it. It's just money out there that needs to go for endangered languages. There is money out there, but if it's just Judy or Joan, people will go, then that's just giving to Judy or Joan. But if it's for a vision, it's very much easier to get the money.
So they just want people who want to make something good happen. So I mean, there are good people out there.
If there weren't good people out there, then you wouldn't have a project like Auroville.
Can I just tell Judy one thing? I was very involved. I had my own orphanage in Chinoy, where it was a community, and the SOS Children's Villages, which were a fantastic model. They had their own marketing. She was actually trained in marketing to raise funds for them.
Yeah.
So it's just an idea,
You need
because they seem to understand where, to me, I mostly did the work, and I do know that feedback is very important.
Absolutely.
That's all I'll say. Thank
Your
you.
first job, it's more difficult to get your first job, but then second and third or fourth are better. If the vision, some people just give for the vision. Some people give because they're a friend of Joan, and Joan says it's a good idea. Joan came to Auroville and someone just gifted her funding. I remember that. She didn't even know Joan, but she didn't even know that Joan wanted funding, but someone just gifted her funding. So there is money out there, and if you have a vision and a group, it's very easy. If we say now we're going to go and raise 10,000 or 20, what do we need? 22,000 to pay Ricardo for the legal fees. I'm sure we can get it within a month.
What kind of people give money? People who've got it aren't necessarily
People who've got it. I mean, as I said, once you've got PBO status, there's money that has to be given. There's corporate social responsibility. We get grants in Auroville. the corporations have to give the money. They're obliged by law to give money. So there's just money out there. You need to just know where to find it.
I think this group could probably raise the 22,000.
Yeah, and you need to. So Judy, if you don't feel confident with fundraising, then we would sit and say, who would like to do fundraising? You know, like who wants? I've
Just
done
never been successful, so I gave up.
Right.
No.
Then we will find. We will
You do
find
definitely
someone
need a
who's.
marketing person, yeah. I sort of like know how it works, but I need someone a little bit more expert
We can also
than me.
hire a fundraiser because what if
That's what they do.
you can hire a fundraiser at some stage, or we can get seminars. There's organizations that teach you how to fundraise in South Africa. I think the next questions were Dana was waiting.
I wanted to ask how many families you can space on a farm, specifically that you said you were already for a while.
I worked out
discussing with the town
about
planners and-
30 plus people per farm of the stewards who steward, because that was 7 houses, and how many people live in 7 houses, depending on how you do the 7 house thing. So maybe 5 per house is 35. But then you've got your guests. So a guest could be coming for 3 months to do training. So your community's also got guests, interns. They also make your community. It's not just the people who live there. And so I think around 35 stewards and members per farm. We could check that, but yeah, that would be initially the model for the farm model. And then you could say you've got like 5 small farms next to each other. You could have 35 on each 5, take down the walls, join them together, and suddenly you've got 170 people. Yeah? Does that answer your question? But that's not including your labourers' cottages, which can be as many as the farm can justify, and it doesn't include the guest accommodation.
To get rid
Two
of the
minutes
commitment.
left.
In your experience at Auroville, like the level of consciousness or the spiritual maturity, how important is that aspect in terms of
Of the community. I mean, that's actually that's the thing that really brings people mostly to Auroville, is the consciousness of the place on material and then also on subtle levels, on the mental, emotional,
And environmental.